Everybody had a great week?
I had a week.
Okay.
I'm here
Wait,
for the pre-clips.
so I heard it sound like you sound like Seeley. I may be up, I may be dumb, but I'm still here. I'm still here.
I'm drunk.
Can we take a moment to celebrate the fact that Tiffany has a ring light?
No,
Congratulations,
Tiffany.
we can actually see her now.
Tiffany, it's great to see you. It's great to see you.
I was waiting all week to see Tiffany. My mama said, send me another
rubbing
taping
that wig,
when
girl.
When I can see that girl.
Okay, we'll wait for you to swallow.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Riley Knox.
I'm Shayna Taylor.
My name is Tiffany Thomas.
I'm Ernest Collins.
I'm Byron Garrett, and this is We Speak. Well, good evening, and welcome back to another episode of We Speak. How are you tonight, Ernest? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. Great to see everybody.
Likewise, and how are you, Shayna? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm awesome. Thanks for asking.
Good to hear. And Riley, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. Loving the t-shirt, Eracism. I got to get one of those. And Tiffany Thomas, good to have you back with us tonight. How are you this evening?
I'm great. Good to be here.
Well, it's good to have everybody. It's been a busy week. You know, we've been coming live and direct via Zoom for the last few weeks. It is the shortest commute we've ever made for the show. And there's so much to cover, from a knee on a black man's neck to the services to commemorate the life of George Floyd and his passing, to all of the things that have happened across the country. We're going to dig right into it, from the chants of I Can't Breathe to all of the protests, to the looting, the rioting. Everybody has their own perspective about it. But this particular week, one thing happened in the House and the Senate. Our Democratic leader, Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and of course, our Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, both got together along with members of their party, and they decided to wear kente cloth as they were introducing new anti-lynching legislation. I'm curious what your thoughts about. Were you actually feeling the kente cloth, or you thought it was another political stunt?
I personally don't want to believe this, but it appeared to be a political stunt. It's like I was at First AME, what is it? First AME Church in LA, where everybody on the podium wears the African garments and the kente cloth. I kind of thought that maybe we were somewhere back in time. I mean, I appreciate it. It's a great gesture, and there are a lot of great gestures. They're not always going to be correct, neither politically correct, yet the attempt is appreciated on my behalf.
All right. How about you, Shane? I'm curious because, you know, we also learned that the kente cloth was actually provided by the Congressional Black Caucus. So I'm curious, you think it was well, or it just didn't land well?
It was. Listen, it's so funny because now that you're saying it, it makes me believe that it was real, because all the pictures that I saw, I thought that they were memes. I thought that it was superimposed. I never thought, I didn't think any of it was real. Every time I saw it, I fell out laughing. I was like, these people with these memes have nothing to do. So hearing now that it was actually a real stunt that they did, it was just that. It was a stunt. It was hilarious though. But you know, sometimes you just got to overdo it and do something that's over exaggerate. It's like the biggest hyperbole when it comes to all of this. So I love it. I mean, it gives us something to talk about. And it also shows them that the colors aren't meant for them. The cloth is not meant for them, because it looks so crazy. It looks so crazy that it looks fake. I thought it was fake. I really did.
So you thought the internet had just won again? I'm curious, Riley, what do you think about that? I mean, do you think it is a stunt, or do you think the fact that they, not only did they wear the cloth, but the fact that they were kneeling and introducing legislation, which then passed the House, what are your thoughts about it?
I feel there are more effective ways to create change. I mean, how nice of them, I guess. But it is absolutely a stunt, a statement, and for sure, like a photo op. But how do we create, the bigger question is, how do you create bigger change, greater change, and what do you do other than a photo op?
Yes, it was a stunt. I have seen them wear it previously, so it's not like this is the first time that they've actually done this. But I appreciated the gesture. I know that it was, you know, a photo op. I know that it was a stunt. I know I'm very much aware of all of that. But the legislation is really what's important. you know, the legislation that they're trying to get passed, the police reform, eliminating the chokeholds and all that good stuff. That's what's really of value. Thumbs
And
up.
who would have thought at any given time that we would still be in 2020 saying we need to secure votes for anti-lynching legislation? I mean, the fact that we even still have to bring a bill to the floor, and I agree with all of you all. It's part political stunt, but it also drew attention, but I hope it didn't take away from the message. And thinking about political stunts, you know, some people are talking about DC's mayor, Muriel Bowser. Riley, I know that's your homegirl, but the reality is this past week, she did something that has never been done in this country before in this particular way. Literally painting the street that leads right up to the White House, Black Lives Matter, and naming it Black Lives Matter Plaza. So effectively done that other cities like Charlotte and Topeka, Albany in New York, and Oakland in California, they all have followed suit. Do you think that's really taking it to the street? Riley, I'll give you the first word.
Well, I'm going to tell you what the message that I got from that. And it made me proud that I live in the city where she is the mayor. But I got the message where it was sort of loud and clear to Donald Trump that, or 45, sorry, that while you may think that you run this country, you don't run up in here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going, like, first of all, DC has always been Chocolate City. It's going to be Chocolate City. And you don't, while you may think you run things, you don't run anything in here. And now you got to look outside your window, look straight down and see those big yellow words, Black Lives Matter, to remind you every single day. And you can just be mad. Like, just go ahead and be mad because it's not going to change. I changed the name of while, and it was really it was really telling to see that she did that. And then he comes out with his tweet talking about how she's always begging for money and how she and her budget and all this other stuff. Like, you could not be more transparent, but it really was sort of an FU, you know, after he shut down the protest, shot people with rubber bullets just so he could go and take pictures with a Bible. Thank God that Bible did not catch on fire. But, you know, it basically was like, F you, you don't run nothing up in here. And we're going to let you know you don't run anything. We're going to keep reminding you every day, you don't run shit up in DC.
I hear that. I hear that. Go ahead, Shayna. I know you always have some fabulous take on it. We have our own perspective about the mayor, but in this particular case, did she get it right or not?
I think she did. She did exactly what the mayor of Chocolate City should do. She came correct. She came hard. She did something that probably other mayors would be afraid to do and probably wouldn't even be able to think of such a grand gesture, because it wasn't just that she commissioned the Black artist to paint the ground, but she actually changed the name of the plaza,
right.
which and had the signs go up the same day, all at the same time. So that was just it was great. And the funniest thing is because it's the district, it's nothing that he could do about it. So I loved every bit of that, and that's one of the things that I saying when people in the district are saying we want statehood, we want statehood. I'm like, you guys have so many certain luxuries that you can get away with right now because you're not a state. Because if it were a state, she would have never been able to pull that off. That message would have never been out there, and he would have just been able to come right back behind her and change it. So the fact that he can't touch her or the people of the district, I'm here for it. That's why Go-Go gonna stay alive, because it's not a state.
So Go-Go gonna stay alive. All right, Ernest, what are your thoughts about that, and Mayor Bowser and her having that commission on the great street leading literally right up to the White House, right up to Lafayette Park? It even shows up now on the Google map. It says Black Lives Matter.
They said you can see it from space. They said you can see it from space. That's great.
I hope that's the case. What's your thought, Ernest? I'm curious.
This just piggybacks on what I said last week about how I'm celebrating the women of power and the mayors, and I did happen to add Mayor Bowser in. Very proud of you, Mayor Bowser. I think you did a great job. And you can see it from, I was told you can't see it from the satellite in space. You can see it everywhere. It was so amazing that I did something that I ordinarily would not do. And it's not that I don't support, but I'm the one to tell the story. I went down to actually walk on and take pictures on 16th Street. What an amazing feeling, a photo op. I mean, the people were gone. There was no looting. There was no, but it was a small disturbance, and people are are going to vocalize their opinion. But what a brilliant idea. I'm so proud that we in DC were the first ones to do it. Our mayor was the first one to actually do something that's impacting everyone. A great idea that they can piggyback on and put the message out there. I took photos by the the Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Right.
And all along the streets, and I went right up to the White House where all the signs. Oh man, you talk about graphic. He can say that people love him. I can't think of one thing other than one person that was there trying to change the message of what we were all trying to put out. And I think the women were trying to attack him, and I'm just not about all that. But what a great kudos to our mayor. Mayor Bowser, I think you finally got it right.
Might be a future president. I heard that little slip in there. And I saw what you did there too, tying that into your commentary last week. Ladies leading, that's without a doubt. Tiffany, we don't want to leave you out. So I'm curious, sweetheart, what your perspective is. I mean, that is a visual display that people not only see in this particular area, but literally other cities have followed suit to do the same thing in following her trend that she set.
I think it's a great idea. I really do. I think it's a really powerful message. I think it's really timely. I think that it was extremely appropriate. And like Shana was saying, you couldn't have done this as easily if DC was a state. But also though, you can't appreciate this and then be mad at the kente cloth though, because really, yeah, it's kind of the same in the same vein. So.
Well, I think the way Riley put it, I think she was sending a very clear message. I know I received it. I think the occupant received it too. And as we talk about ladies who are in key roles, this past week, the First Lady took to Twitter. I don't know if you all saw this or not, but she tweeted that, and I want to make sure I get her words right. She said, "I am saddened to see our country and communities being damaged and vandalized. I ask everyone to protest in peace and focus on taking care of one another and healing our nation." Those were the words from Melania Trump. But then, of course, Twitter user Alex Cole came back and responded, "Well, Colin Kaepernick tried to protest in peace, and your husband called him a son of a bitch, so you should sit this one out, lady." I'm curious what you all's thoughts are on this rare public statement from the current FLOTUS actually wading into political issues, which normally a First Lady wouldn't do. Let's start with you, Shana. I'm curious what your thoughts are regarding not only the response, but also the fact that she was looking to use her platform to call attention to something significant in her mind.
Right. So I don't necessarily think that it's a political issue. I don't think her statement was political. It was probably that of just a woman who cares, because I don't get the impression that she doesn't care. But it just was such an out of place comment. Because it's like, yeah, that's great. But like her husband, she didn't acknowledge the huge social injustice. Yes, we really want people to protest peacefully. That's great, but we tried it, it didn't work. But I really would have wanted her to address what is it that we're protesting and why. Let's talk about that. Stop telling us what not to do and what to do. Talk about what's happening and what the root cause is to all of this protest.
And I don't know, maybe it's because she has that initiative called Be Best. I'm curious, Tiffany, I mean, do you think the First Lady, should she even issue a statement on this at all? Like, I know she went to Twitter, but I'm like, what are you trying to say? Because there's a lot that you did not say that you should have said. So I'm curious, what's your thought?
Well, my thought is this. We've been peacefully protesting for 50 years, and it really hasn't been working. So let's change this up a little bit and see how it flows, because this is something that's been 400 years. These police brutality, these police related hate crimes, these are real significant issues that we've been dealing with 400 years. So, and like I said, we've been peacefully protesting a very long time, multiple generations, and it hasn't bore fruit in this regard. This is the most significant progress that we have made to date as it relates to real police reform. So yeah, she can have several seats and several seats.
And Ryan, you're our resident social guru, just because you are an expert in the social media space and part of your career is spent there. What's your thinking when someone high profile like the First Lady utilizes Twitter as a vehicle to issue a statement like this in an official way?
I want to say this. If you guys think that she wrote that herself and put that out herself, I have a beautiful bridge in Brooklyn that I'd like to sell you. Number one. Number two, where the hell has she been anyway? Does she even still live in the White House? So we don't know where how convenient that she has come and said something now, but she's never been around. Now, here's the thing. And I don't like to compare apples to oranges, but let's just, for the sake of compare them. When Barack Obama was the president of the United States, and he's my forever president, but when he was the president of the United States, we didn't have to wonder where Michelle was. She was always by his side, supporting him. She always had a point of view. She had something to say. While being the first lady is not an actual official job, and while first ladies are normally not prompted to say anything political, she was always at the forefront of social issues that were going on. So where has Melania been all this time? And why is she just now popping up, and how convenient for the White House that she pops up and says something now? If you didn't say anything before, we don't need you to say anything now. And the reason I have a problem with Melania is simply because she has an anti-bullying campaign, cyberbullying campaign. Your husband is the biggest your husband is the biggest cyberbully in the history of cyberbullies. So you can have, like Tiffany said, several seats. And I do not believe that she wrote this. I think somebody just, hacked her Twitter or put it up on Twitter for her.
Hack her Twitter.
They're not her words. These are not her words. Now she's not good. She's not good at giving her own words. She's good at copying Michelle Obama's words. Maybe she should have been copying them all this time. But this is not a woman that I care to hear from, care what she has to say. Her opinion has no value to me because she hasn't said anything before, and I don't even believe she even lives in that White House. So.
Wow. Ernest.
She might still be in the bunker.
Don't say that. Don't say that. I'm going to come back to you, though, Ernest, because you talked last week and opened up today's segment about last week we were talking about Mayor Bowser. You also recognize Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms and the great work they're doing as women who lead. I'm curious what's your perspective. So here we have a First Lady of the United States who uses her platform in this way. What's your thought about not only her tweet, but then also the subsequent response?
I don't know if I want to say no disrespect or not, because that's really what I feel. But this is when she started talking and I heard this is what I did. Because It meant absolutely nothing to me. I kind of heard the feedback, and what a crazy message. It was nothing. It's mixed up like the White House is in this country. It's all lost. It said nothing. It meant nothing. It was definitely, in my opinion, like Riley and everyone else said, it was something written. It was like script, and she didn't really read it that well. She didn't sell it that well. I think she's been quiet all this time. She should go somewhere and sit down. I mean, the message was not received. She didn't promote anything. She really didn't understand, just like her husband. So I think she's been quiet all along. She should go somewhere, sit down.
I think that's loud and clear. Everybody said that the First Lady should have several seats, not only on this issue, but issues in general. And as we think about things that are happening in society and folks who are saying, why is everything focused on race for the show? We're just reporting and talking about what's happening. And mentioning key events this week, I don't know if you all saw, but due to the recent racial uprising, HBO Max, if you happen to tune in, they made the decision to remove the classic Gone with the Wind from its streaming service. Now, do you think that was really necessary? Because that film has been around since like 1940, but they literally took Gone with the Wind out of the inventory so people couldn't even watch it. What are your thoughts about that? Let's start with you, Tiffany.
Well, this is not the first time that Gone with the Wind was on a streaming site that during a time when something happened and it ended up getting pulled. It happened 2 years ago. I forget who it was that was killed at that time, and it was pulled, I believe, from Hulu or Netflix. I can't remember which one. Okay. Either way, it with everything going on, I really could care less if somebody decides they want to watch Gone with the Wind. I really don't care.
Okay.
But they did say that they were going to preface it with some kind of historical talking point or whatever. Who's writing that talking point? That's what I want to know. What do you want to say? Oh, in light of, yeah, come on now.
In light of. Dana, what do you think? Gone with the Wind. I don't know if you ever watched it. Probably you did, but it's gone now. Butterfly McQueen is no more on HBO Max.
It's weird because, like Tiffany said, they've taken it down before, then it just comes back on another platform. But the thing is that it was a classic. It is a really well-made film, but it's not the only one that has such content. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of more films. So just like they've gotten rid of cops and they're talking about getting rid of Paw Patrol. I mean, what is that going to change? Like, who cares about the content that we see? Let's change the narrative. Let's change the story. I mean, next thing you know, they're going to take down The Color Purple. Like, it's a lot of films that have the same underlying tone, and all this crap is still going on. Like, Roots going to be gone. They ain't going to want us to see that. Like, come on now. I'm not caring about the movies that are on that were already made, that millions and millions of people have already seen. Let's just change the narrative of what's going on today.
I got to push in on that a little bit because, you know, some people who are fans of the Confederate would say the same thing as it relates to all these Confederate statues that exist across the country. But you see, Governor Northam in Virginia made the decision that the Robert E. Lee statue would come down. They, of course, tore down the statue overseas in Europe, dumped it in the same river that they had rolled slave ships into. So I don't know. Is there a correlation between what movies should be shown or taken out of inventory? Do you make the same comparison in that case?
I don't. I mean, these statues, and the funniest thing about the Robert E. Lee, they're fighting that. You see that he's got some heirs that are like, nah, it's staying up. But I think a monument that's physically somewhere that people have to see and have to pass, I think is a little bit different than somebody going on TV and watching something. Because we literally have to pass those monuments, you know, people of color. But to watch something, like, it made me think about Dukes of Hazzard. Like, we used to watch that all the time, and that Confederate flag was, I thought it was a Texas flag. Like, it was the whole car. We wanted those. I was hanging out of windows of cars thinking I was Dukes of Hazzarding, and it just never rung true. But it's on TV. Like, just don't watch it. Don't show your kids. It's just, but we were so deep into it. It was the thing. It was so subtle.
Now that's interesting. I'm curious, Ernest, what's your thought? Because you're right. I used to watch Dukes of Hazzard, Bo and Luke Duke, and that entire cast, even coming up with the idea of Daisy Dukes. Most people don't realize that's the origin, right? Mm-hmm. What's your thought about that in terms of, as we look at these images and entertainment and media from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, or even 80s, should they be challenged and taken out of inventory because they send a message that doesn't fit with today's time?
I want to first go back to what Shayna said. Well, I'll go back to that in a minute. But first, for the Gone with the Wind, I think Gone with the Wind, I've never really cared for it. I knew it's around. It was something I was just really never interested in watching that just didn't really relate with me as well. But I do believe that our current president, 45, should be Gone with the Wind. That's just my personal opinion. When it comes to the Dukes of Hazzard, you are so right. We were just young and didn't know any better. I was so busy looking at the female, for real, and the Daisy Duke shorts, I didn't really care or notice the Confederate flag. It is not until we became older and the maturity set in and our knowledge, we started to research more what that means. I didn't even think about it till this second when Shayna said it. One more thing, I'm so mad they're taking cops off. I understand they're about to take my other shirt off, Live PD. And my reasoning for that is it showed me personally, because like I said before, I'm pretty much a law-abiding citizen. So I don't get pulled over. I don't really get profiled when I have got pulled over. So when people say these things, I have to take them for their word. But that gave me an actual visual of what actually is happening. It made me aware. So I'm kind of disappointed that they're taking Live PD up. Now, cops, you can maybe pick out and choose what you want to watch. But Live PD was live. It's not much you can do with that.
I'm curious then. So Riley, two different comparisons. So on one end, we've talked about, as Shayna inserted, the Dukes of Hazzard, which is the entire car for people who have never seen the show. The entire car is the Confederate flag. And then you have this particular issue of literally the Paramount Network has canceled, and I think Cops has been on for like 33 seasons, and they've canceled it because it glorifies police violence and police brutality. You think that's appropriate, or you think censorship is going too far?
So I'm going to shock you guys. and I have a very, very kind of maybe biased opinion about this whole thing with Gone with the Wind, because I have said it before, and our producer probably remembers, but it's actually my favorite movie of all time. And it's actually, I have the box, the 50th anniversary. Now this is funny because I did not know we were talking about this today, right? But we have to be careful when we talk about things like rewriting history, because first of all, this is a work of fiction. However, remember, Gone with the Wind garnered the first African-American woman, the first Black woman ever to receive an award
Academy
for
Award.
Yeah, Hattie McDaniel. Yeah.
McDaniel. All right. That's number one. Number two, it is a work of fiction. But we also have to remember, like Shana was talking about with Roots and all these other different things. Because of movies like this, I think we need to be more concerned about what we're putting out going forward and things that actually happened in history. This did not happen in history. This is a work of fiction, and it came out in 1938. It was made in 1938. It does depict happy slaves. So a lot of people are just sort of like, that's not, right with history and all this stuff. But when we take away things like that, do we take away the fact that a brilliant actress who was Black got an award and was the first who set the tone for people like Halle Berry, set the tone for people like Angela Bassett and people like Whoopi Goldberg to become actresses and Black actresses and get accolades in the future. So for me, I'm not so concerned about this, although it is one of my favorite movies, and it was my mother's favorite movie, and it's my grandmother's favorite movie, and my aunts and all this stuff, but not for the reason that people think. And I think we have to be careful when it goes to things like this existed in a time and period. And going forward, I think we need to teach our kids things like this existed in that time because it was thought of as okay back then. It's not okay now. Yeah. This movie could never come out right now. And then I also think to myself, so does this mean that we're never going to have movies about slaves? Or never have movies about Black injustice and just pretend that it never happened to begin with? Because then that's the problem also. We can't pretend that these things didn't happen. This happened at a specific period in time when this kind of behavior was okay. But what we learned from this kind of thing is it's not okay anymore. But I don't think you can just say, oh, well, that movie never existed. Because when you say that never existed, then you're taking away the fact that the first Black woman ever to win an Oscar was in that movie and gave a hell of a performance, first of all.
Yeah. And you know what, Riley, mentioning that, even to bring that even more current, the notion that she not only won that Oscar, and then this week the Oscar or the Academy officially announced that Ava DuVernay was joining their board of directors. I don't know if you all saw that. It literally just came out. It was either late yesterday or early this morning, which was shocking. But shocking in a good way, because we know that they got work they need to do.
I'm sorry, I have one more thing to add. I think what I was trying to say is, I don't think that that people in Hollywood or the networks should be asking themselves why we put out this movie so long ago. We should be asking ourselves, why was that movie put out in 1938 and you just asked Ava DuVernay on to the Academy this week? Why did it take so long? That's the bigger question. Because if that movie has been around for 60-something years, why did it take you so long to make changes, knowing that what you know? Well, that's the bigger issue.
No, that's great. And mentioning changes that need to be made. So MLK III, Martin Luther King Jr. the third, not Jr., Martin Luther King III. He's calling, Shana, you probably heard this. He's calling for the NFL for us to continue to boycott the NFL until they give Colin his contract and sign him to a team. Now, I know how you feel, Shana, but I'm just curious. Do you think, or do you support the notion and think that the boycott for the NFL would be right in this case? Now, it's Martin Luther King III who's making this request. It's not just a regular citizen or a sports fan. What's your thoughts about that?
This place right here. So the thing about that is it's just too much going on. So now, the craziest thing about that is what we learned is that the NFL is tricky. It's nothing like baseball. It's nothing like basketball when we're talking about salaries and how these people make money. It would really hurt the players terribly if we boycott football because it's one of those sports where they don't get paid. So now we're talking about thousands of Black men that won't be able to support their families for an entire season. They will not get paid at all. So now you're going to punish the players for something that ultimately I'm constantly thinking, Colin Kaepernick has not played a game in 3 years. You're going to force him to play. I don't even think he can play right now. Like, football is not like other sports. You can't not play in 3 years. I think it would be counterproductive for him for us to even expect him to come back and be able to play at a quality level of football. So it's like we're going to have him come back and set him up for disaster just for them to have the reason to say, this is exactly why he didn't have a contract. He wasn't good then. He's not good. Like, it's just, I don't even think it's a good situation. It's a setup for him.
Yeah.
It would be a setup. I don't even think it would be fair for him. It's been 3 years. It's the NFL. This isn't XFL. I mean, these guys, and they're coming off the line quicker than they were coming off before. The players are bigger. He was never super fast in the first place, but these guys are coming off the line fast. I don't think it's too quick of a game now, and it's 3 years without him having played. I've seen his workouts. Yes, he looks great out there by himself, running, skipping, and throwing. But when you got somebody coming off that line with that 4.5 speed at 255, 265 pounds, it's not the same.
I'm curious.
It's not the same.
You got a thought? I'm not a huge sports fan, right? In general, I care about people that sign checks for me. But I'm curious, Ernest. I don't know if you got a thought about this potential boycott that MLK is proposing that we do on behalf of the NFL.
I think that, no disrespect to MLK Jr. III, he should stick in a different arena and not do sports. It's like the president chiming in on something that he really has no respect, position, or authority to really step into. It is a totally different arena. Shayna knocked it out of the park. I think Colin Kaepernick has done what he's done already. What he needed to do, he's done. We're still talking about him right now. Everybody's talking about him right now. To put him out there on the field right now would be a setup, whether you like him or not. What Shayna said is absolutely correct, and I mirror everything that she said. It would be a disaster to him, to the career, and everything else, because these guys are much stronger, much younger, much faster. They're not the same. And if you can survive more than 4 years in the NFL and be successful, you've done a great job, because everything is changing. The guys
I was going to say just that. The life expectancy is not the same. I'm curious. I'm going to shift gears for a second. Tiffany, this week.
Wait, hold up. Before you shift gears, one thing that I can say that they could and should offer him is one of the things that the NFL is, what we're constantly pointing the finger to them about, is that we don't have any Black owners. We've got one minority owner down in Jacksonville. He's not Black, and there are several people of color and Black people who have enough money who've tried to purchase teams and they've been blocked out. So what they can do for Colin Kaepernick is allow him to purchase a team. They can allow him to purchase a team. If they got to do an expansion, do an expansion. But I'm pretty certain he can put together a group of additional Black people that got the money, let him buy a team.
Shana, you done came full circle on Colin. Okay.
Honey.
Holding the NFL accountable. I like it. Let me move forward. So, Tiffany, what I was going to ask you, we learned this week that 77,000 felons have been granted the right to vote in the 2020 election by the state of Nevada. I'm curious, do you think the GOP is worried or should be worried that this might be a trend leading towards November? 77,000 felons now get the right to vote.
Yes, they are shaking in their boots because now they have to figure out a new way to voter suppress. So do I think that they're going to try to pull the same stunt that they did in Florida, that eventually had to go to the court system in order to get justified? Absolutely. Do I think that it will work in the court system? Probably not. But yes, as soon as because the majority of the prison population is African American in large parts vote Democratic. So yeah, they're shaking, but the numbers for Republicans don't add up anyway. If they didn't voter suppress, if they didn't cheat, none of them would have any seats, because the math is just not there for them to have the number of seats that they do. But regardless, yes. Are they going to try to block it? Are they going to try to do something?
Did I just hear you say in one voice you told Melania Trump to have several seats, and then in this voice you just told the Republican parties if they were not cheaters, they would have no seats whatsoever? Is that what you said?
Defiant, honey, defiant. They couldn't win without cheating.
I'm curious, Riley, what's your thoughts?
Look, 45 is a perfect example. He can't win nothing without cheating. He can't even get a degree without cheating. Stop lying.
Well, that's why you created a university, but I'm going to leave that alone. Riley, I'm curious your thoughts about the 77,000 felons who now have the opportunity to vote in the state of Nevada. You think I want
to say two things. First, really quick, to go back to the Colin Kaepernick thing. I think that Colin Kaepernick's legacy is far beyond anything of playing football. I think he would do better to be more of an activist, to continue on his activism, continue on being a Black leader. I think his legacy is far greater than, and I don't know anything about sports or how he played, but Shayna says wasn't that great. So, but I think, your message is much greater as an activist as a Black activist than it would be playing a couple seasons in a game. So that being said, but what we're just talking about now, you know, I think this week I was really troubled by the fact that I don't trust, I'm going to still vote, but I don't trust the voting system that's set up in this country right now, especially with what went on this week in Atlanta. I think it was Atlanta, with the problems with they're saying, oh, some of the things are shut down and people have been waiting for 4 hours. I feel like they were trying to get people in certain neighborhoods, Black neighborhoods, to be tired and not sit around so long and just like tire them out. So it's like, okay, I don't feel like voting. Or say like because of social distancing, we only have a few working machines, and then these machines even broke. And then just wait for it. We'll be talking, trust me, we'll be talking about this again. And I think that because of what's going on with the prison and all that stuff now, the former inmates, then they're really going to try some things to try to get him to win, because as Tiffany said, they know no other way than to cheat, whether it's with Russians or whether it's with, saying that the machines are broken or whatever is convenient for them. That's all they know is how to cheat their way in. So I just want to take, I don't know how we do it, honestly, but I want to take a look at this way that we vote and how it's being tallied, and even like absentee votes and mail-in things. I don't trust any of it. I really just don't trust it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to vote, and I'm not saying people don't vote. Please go vote, our audience. But I just don't, I just have a hard time trusting it.
I'm curious, what's your thought, Ernest? I mean, that's, and returning citizens, and I'm glad you were saying that, Riley. I know you were saying former inmates. I think folks now officially say returning citizens instead of ex-convict or felon, because they are returning back to society. What's your thought, knowing that their voting rights have been restored in this particular case in the state of Nevada?
I think it's great that they do have the right and the option to vote for whatever reasons they were put in this position to become felons. I don't want to judge. I am very fearful, however, just as Riley said. I'm so scared. I mean, I'm hopeful yet very afraid, because I truly do not believe that 45 got in by vote alone without Russia meddling. I think that, yeah, it's a great step that we've allowed. And by the numbers, I think the Republicans should be afraid. However, I don't think he got in by the actual voting. I think he got in another way. That's one step that we've taken, but we still have to figure out the main thing is what could possibly get him in again, and that's interfering in this election. The long lines, I stood in one before. And this is true. Like I said to you guys, I think it was last week or week before, there was a young lady in front of me and the lines were long and they were saying how long it was and she wanted to leave, and I had to encourage her to stay. By the time we got to the front of the line, she was very happy. We're gonna have to, just like some people, I can't think of what state it was. Was it Georgia, wherever they waited in line for 5 hours? Hey man, I'll do an 8-hour split. I'll do whatever it takes to exercise my right to vote. It doesn't matter. Now, I have to believe in my mind that my vote is not only gonna count, it is going to register and be effective, and that it'll definitely make a change.
Shana, I'm gonna come to you. I wanna move ahead though. When we talk about voting and what things people can do individually to protest in a variety of ways, this week, hundreds of thousands of people signed a petition to officially make the KKK a hate group. I mean, I hate to even say that in 2020 that's not the case. And let me correct my language, not just a hate group, but to actually have the KKK labeled a terrorist group. I'm curious what your thoughts are. You think it's too late for us to be doing that, or should it have been done long ago, or now is the time, and so let's make sure we do what we can to make that happen?
Absolutely, the latter. It definitely is something that should have happened a long time ago. But of course, they're the ones in power, so they're not going to vote against themselves to have something happen against themselves. And it's funny because if they become labeled as a terrorist group, then they'll be, who's going to investigate them? Because a lot of people in the FBI, a lot of people in the CIA are secretly parts of that terrorist group. A lot of these politicians, a lot of people in the White House are part of this terrorist group. So it's like, okay, label it as such, but they're not going to get the same type of treatment that ISIS would. Like, call it what you want to call it. they're not going to pursue them. They're not going to pursue them.
Very well said.
So you can go ahead and we'll waste our time labeling them. I'll sign the petition. I'll do everything that I have to do to get them labeled, just in case somebody, I guess, gets arrested one day. Then they can get tried as a terrorist and then released by a jury of terrorists that act like they're not. So
you said a jury of their peers would be terrorists too? Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Riley, what's your thoughts? Should the KKK be labeled as a terrorist group in this day and age in 2020?
I don't understand how they were not labeled a long time ago. This is absolutely, they created so much terror for so many people. I don't understand how this is just coming about now. See, some things just don't make sense. And let's just call it out. It does not make sense that in 2020, they're just being labeled a terrorist group. It does not make sense that, you know, in 2020, that we have to remind people that Black Lives Matter, or that, you know, we're not a threat to you, or we have to remind you of things that should just be basic principles and basic things. It just doesn't make sense to me at all. And I didn't even know about this, but it's just, it's ridiculous. And I also wonder what's going to happen, because there are a lot of people in the, a lot of KKK members who are Trump supporters. And remember, he had some kind of, like, I don't know what it was, and I don't want to speak out of turn, like it's, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but whatever it was that he, during his campaign, it was something where he was, and somebody help me out if you know, they were supporters of his, and he was somehow not directly glorifying them and their support or something like that. I'm not really sure. But it's very interesting what's going to happen with all of that. But like, how can you not, like, we've got the president at one point tweeting that people who are protesting are domestic terrorists, and that's why he called in the National Guard. But then you're just now labeling these people as domestic terrorists?
Well, and let's clarify, because they haven't officially labeled it. It's just a petition that's circulating. It's gotten hundreds of thousands of signatures, but they got a long way to go.
But there shouldn't even be a petition. It doesn't even make any sense. It should just be something that's done. You shouldn't have to petition for things that are just basic common sense and common principles.
You're right, because they're actually—
We about to label the White House as a terrorist group. We about to put a petition together. We're going to label the White House, the current administration, as a terrorist group.
Well,
let me get a pen and paper. Let me write this up now. Let me write this up right now.
Here's the thing, and I don't know if our producer saw this today, but today on The View, they were talking about this, and or maybe it was either today or yesterday, and Joy said, well, he's a domestic terrorist. He's calling all these protesters domestic terrorists, and Whoopi had to have her clarify it, because she was going to get in trouble for calling the president a domestic terrorist. But if she gets in trouble for calling him a domestic terrorist, how come he doesn't get in trouble for calling the American citizens domestic terrorists?
No, I agree with you. I'm curious, Tiffany, in this segment, I'm gonna give you the last thought on this one as we talk about the KKK potentially being named, and finally named, I should say, as a terrorist group. What's your thinking on that before we move forward?
Well, I think the petition is great, but unless they are legally seen that way by the FBI, then there are no legal or ramifications to their actions. So if there's no legal ramifications, or if they're not imprisoned, or if there are no consequences to their actions, then a petition really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we all know, and we're probably the ones signing the petition, we all know that they're terrorist organizations.
Well, and they've got—
the guy knows that they're terrorist organizations, and has said on Capitol Hill more than once that white domestic terrorists is the biggest threat to the country than anything else.
And
so to say this is just obvious at this point.
And you know what? And now that I think about it, to take it a half a step further, the hugest ramification, which leads me to believe it's not going to happen, is if they label them a terrorist organization. Remember, if you are found funding a terrorist organization, that's a crime in itself. So let's think about all these rich white people in America who fund the KKK.
And you're not going to regular jail. You're going to the real one.
Shane, drop the mic. Was that a— Let me move forward. You know, last week we talked about the tragic beating of Aiyana Dior by folks in the great state of Minneapolis, in the same location as we think about in the city, I should say, of Minneapolis. But we just learned this particular week, Wanda Vasquez, who is the governor of Puerto Rico, she just signed a new amendment overhauling an entire series of regulations of various rights, and including one that targets the LGBT community, specifically saying that transgender individuals can no longer have the legal right to change their name or their gender on their birth certificate. I'm curious, Shane, I just saw your facial expression. Let's start with you. Curious your thoughts.
That is so I mean, it's so crazy that we always think that we have the right to tell people what they can and cannot do. Now, I get it as far as birth certificates. I do understand as far as a birth certificate, that is legal documentation of birth. So I kind of agree they shouldn't be able to change that part, but they should be able to change anything else that happens after that, just like anyone else can. Like, I can't go back and change stuff on my, like, if I want to take my daddy's name off because I don't really like it, that's not my problem. But I can't go back and change we can't go back and change things that we don't like on our birth certificates, or things that we don't agree with, again, as we get older. We can't go back and change those things. But in life, we can change whatever we want to change. So if they want to change it on their license, by all means, they should be able to do that. If they want to change their name on their social security card and their passport and everything else moving forward, that should be acceptable. But on a birth certificate, that is a record of birth, and that should stay as such.
Okay. How about you, Ernest? What's your thought from that perspective, given what's happening in Puerto Rico? And remember, that's the governor who's moved forward with these particular overhauling legislation that's been passed.
I think that it is ridiculous. That's just a ridiculous piece of legislature. I think it is offensive, especially to the LGBTQ community. And once again, these are these things, and you know, as we move forward, it's shameful that we're still. How can we move a message forward with so much blatant hate and disregard for people's rights? I think I don't agree. That's all I can say. I think it's awful. I think it's a bad piece of legislation,
Yeah, I get it, because it baffles my mind in trying to process, especially in a state like, when you think it's Puerto Rico, of all places, when you look at the challenges that exist across the country. Riley, before we move forward.
Wait, hold on a second. Go back really quick, because I want to make sure I understand specifically. Did they specifically make the law against solely transgender, saying that they cannot change
there are
the information?
No, there are a series of regulations, but in this particular case, the code has provisions that eliminate the ability for a transgendered person to change their name or their gender on their birth certificate.
Okay, yeah, because I don't think anybody should be able to change anything on your birth certificate, whether you're transgender or not. Your birth certificate is okay. I still have the same position. Yeah, I just don't think that they should have a specific language that says, like, oh, transgenders can't do it. It's like, no, a birth certificate is a birth certificate. But the only way you should be able to change something on a birth certificate is if something was incorrect.
But you know, even if it's incorrect, it's like an act of Congress in order to get a change. But
absolutely. Like a lot of people have Negro. Or a lot of people have Negro, and they don't want their birth certificates to say Negro, and you can't get it changed to say Black, which is what it says now.
No, and
so it's like you can't change.
I can't change it either. But I'm curious, Riley. I'll give you the final thought before we move on to the next segment.
Well, as the resident transgender woman on this panel, you know, it is really interesting that you have someone come out and say that the reason is because they don't want a specific group of people to do something. And you guys gotta understand that there is a reason for everything under the sun. It's not just because they just want to say, oh, we don't think that it's cute for you guys to do it anymore. It's because it's a trickle down effect. If I'm not able to change gender markers or names or whatever, and that don't allow me to change things on other documentation, that means that if you create a crime against me, it will not be looked at as a hate crime. It will not be looked at as if a guy beats me, it will not be looked at like he was beating a woman. It does not look at, so there's a reason for all of these things. It doesn't just like we just take rights away from somebody just because we don't think that it's cute or whatever. It's for a specific purpose. And while you cannot rewrite history, you should be allowed to have the proper documentation that it takes for you to change things on other documents or on other going forward on other things, so that you're able to move about in the world and be protected under the same laws that everyone else is protected.
Very well said.
And that makes sense too. But also, I agree with you, Riley, in that you can change those things moving forward on current things like your driver's license and things like that. But another thing that with the birth certificate part changing that, I know this came up in the, it comes up in the sports world sometimes. You had that track star in Jamaica who they were trying to say wasn't born a woman, but she was racing as a woman. And they had that happen in CrossFit as well. Because if you change things like a birth certificate, then now you can have a transgender person competing in their new sex category against people who they naturally should not be competing against. Because we all know men are naturally stronger and more physical, even though you can train and be better and do all this great, just men are always stronger than women physically when it comes to that. So to have a transgender woman competing against women in sports is just not going to be fair. So I know that was one of the things that they were talking about before too, when they were trying to pull athletes' birth certificates and take a look at those as well.
And just as an aside, we probably shouldn't talk about CrossFit because, I don't know if you saw this week, but the CEO and founder, he had to resign from his own company that he created because of his racist tweets and commentary. Basically, all of the gyms across the country booted him out and said, you may have created CrossFit, but you got to go. And he did. I want to move forward in that same vein. I'm going to come to you,
He's the new Bikram yoga.
Right. Really?
Get out.
So Tiffany, this particular week, we saw at least two that made national headlines, 2 new inductees into the Karen Hall of Fame. One young lady, if you saw it, she chose to approach a Mexican-American woman in Phoenix convenience store and decided to try to tell her how she could operate and navigate what's happening. The internet, of course, is calling her corner store Karen, and she's captured on video. So let's take a pause right here.
Excuse me, but you did say that she needs to go back to her country. What is that?
Native Americans.
Excuse me, this is what this whole world.
White people are not from this country. Don't serve her.
Yeah, you do not
Don't serve her racist ass.
You don't. Oh no. Continue serving. Continue serving.
You need to leave. You're not a part of this. You need to leave. You're not a part of this. No, you do not come in here and use the F word and swear and call me a bitch.
I've never even said
I
that
said
word.
she is, and you're not a part of
said that word.
So
You're
you
making
get out of
stuff
here.
up now.
I know. I said she is, and that's why she's leaving. So you will leave too.
No. This is going all over the internet. You don't know who I am. You told her to go back to her country.
Where were you born, bitch? Born in America, bitch. Where are your ancestors from? They're not from this country.
You're going back to Mexico.
You better go back to where you're from.
You just walked into her. Excuse me.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you deserved it.
Oh my God.
In my opinion. Yeah, you pushed her and she smacked you. That was self-defense on her part.
We're talking about the Karen Hall of Fame. You saw it right there. The lady literally confronting this young lady in the store. What's your thought about that? I mean, do you think she overstepped, or you think she was well within her right to say what she said? Like literally, go back to your country?
Karen was way out of pocket, and they're going to continue to do this. And you catch your sister with some of that ridiculousness, and it's not going to be a cute picture. But them doing this is something that they've always done. We can take it back to Emmett Till. We can take it back to, like, your background, Black Wall Street. That was the beginning of how all that got started. So this is not something that's not in their MO. This is how they roll. This is how they've always executed their feminine white privilege. So don't come at me telling me that you're liberal or that you're moderate or you're Democrat and do things like this, because you're showing who you are when you have these actions. Your actions will always speak louder than your words. So when you get hands, then you can't be mad. You just can't.
You get hands. That's a quote. Tweet that. When you get hands, you can't be mad. I'm curious, what's your thought, Ernest, when you think about that particular video and somebody choosing to engage with a person in a store and literally get in their space, her, I don't know if it was her man, her husband, her friend, co-worker, or what, but both of them, she's like accosting them in the middle of the store. What's your thought?
I think that this white privilege thing is so real that we just can't ignore it. However, dear white people, let's be smart. Let's just be smart. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but let's be smart. People ain't afraid to kick some ass nowadays. They're just really not. And I do understand people, everybody's not going to be on the same page with this equality. It's moving so fast. People are spinning around, but your privilege only goes in a certain pocket. It does not apply. It's not like a platinum card. You can use it everywhere. There's some places where it's just not accepted. And people, I've gotten lots of videos, man, a lot of people who, and I hate to use the white black thing because I have a lot of friends, and I know that sounds crazy, but I have a lot of friends and they know my heart, my spirit, but we're talking about what's going on right now. And there are a lot of people now that are boldly trying to stick their chest out and believe that their word is going to be heard and things are going to go back to the way they are and forget your march. But I got bad news, man. There are people just their same color that is just as angry as we are that's moving with us. So this is the time, if you really ain't all that, step back, man. Step back and appreciate and respect the movement.
The other video I want us to take a look at is this one. It's a young lady who's actually an attorney, and she chose to spit on a 17-year-old protester. Watch this clip.
At this time, I continue to be mentally and physically shaken. To be assaulted by an adult in my own community during the pandemic was traumatic. Again and again, I am viewed not as a child, but as a color that destroys and does not uplift and love.
We have cell phone video that appears to show Stephanie Rapkin, a local attorney, spitting on Lucas, an African-American teen, during a protest on Saturday night. Police say Rapkin was arrested, cited, and released. Then police say she was arrested again Sunday night and taken to Milwaukee County Jail on a battery charge after a different protester showed up outside her home. Shorewood police also say she attempted to resist arrest by kneeing an officer in the groin. And now the superintendent of the Shorewood School District is asking the DA's office to add hate crime enhancers to any charges that may be potentially filed today. And again, those charges could be announced as soon as this afternoon.
What's your thought for somebody to have the nerve and audacity to spit on another person? And
So what this woman did was she used her car to block the protesters. And then when the protesters got closer and people were telling her, like white people were telling her, you got to move your car. You got to move your car. You can't do that. And she just decided that she was just going to be defiant. So then the people advanced her, as you guys saw in the video, and she spit. Now, you guys already know, like one of the worst things you could ever do is to spit on somebody. But right. Then you see in the video, and see, I would be pissed if I were the little boy because I'm one of those people, you do something to me, and I'm trying to get back, and people are holding me back. But they were smart because he could get in trouble for basically ruining this woman. Like he could have stretched her all across the street. And they held him back, but then all the people circled around her to basically and got on her. But it's just the audacity that you spit on this protest. He didn't do anything to this woman. He's the 17-year-old boy and now has to think about the fact that this white woman spit on him at 17 years old in 2020. Thank God she was arrested, but it just does not make any sense. And it's one of those things where it's just like I said last week, this country has always been set up to protect white women. But honey, y'all gonna learn today. Y'all gonna learn today. Just like we were talking about the woman in the previous video with that decided that she was gonna ask the woman, where were you born? What? So where I was born determines how you respect me? Are you kidding me? And the woman was born in this country, but it doesn't. That's not even a part of the equation. And why do you think? Why would you think as a white person that you were the original person here in America? You were not. You were not. So just like you want somebody else to go back to their country, then you should probably take that same sentiment for yourself first. But you don't just say that to somebody and then advance somebody and then grab on somebody and not expect them to slap you. And it was weird to me because I see the woman seemed like she was absolutely appalled and caught off guard. Shayna, I come up right now and I tried to grab you by your arm and you slapped me. Am I supposed to be shocked that you slapped me, or is it an expected thing?
She thought she was protected. She thought her privilege is a barrier.
I can't believe can't believe she slapped you. How can you just grabbed her? Of course. You've got to understand that there is a consequence for every single thing. And guess what? Call the police is not going to always be the thing that gets you out of the clear. Sometimes you're just gonna have to get your face slapped for doing stupid.
Well, that lawyer, she learned that today because she ended up being arrested. Now I don't know who she's going to call to get herself out of jail. What's your thought, Shani, when you think about that somebody literally would have the audacity to spit on another human being, let alone an adult on a child?
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing because I can remember someone spitting on me, an adult spit on me. Similar, it was a racially tensioned situation, and she was Hispanic. And I was a child and she was an adult, and she spit on me and called me the N-word. Wow. And I'm pretty certain I was the last person that she spit on and or the last person that she called the N-word, because I got that ass for her. Like, it just doesn't matter. It's certain things that I will allow. And like Ernest said, my friends know my heart, but they also know these hands. And they know these hands get crazy against people who spit. Like, you can't spit on me ever, and you can't be racially unjust to me. So it's you know my heart, but you see these hands, and anybody who know me knows I'm a throw 'em. I'm a straight nice person, but a bulldog in a ring when I don't play those games. So both of these Karens, the lady in the convenience store is lucky that little Hispanic girl had money in her hand. Because she smacked her with the one hand, but I could tell she wanted to come across with the other hand, but She had money in it. She couldn't get her. She couldn't get her good enough. Like, the glasses didn't come off, man. But spitting on that little boy, she was lucky too, because spitting on someone is battery. So he could have defended himself off of her spitting on him, and he would have been justified because it's a threat. It's a threat that's carried out with an action. So he definitely would have been okay with hitting her a couple of times. And because I know the law.
Haven't forgotten that we're still in the middle of coronavirus.
I was gonna say,
correct.
We're in the middle of corona, and you gonna spit on somebody in public.
Oh no. What she really needs to be glad is that his mama wasn't there, because that would not have worked out.
Or his auntie, or his cousin, or me.
What happened? What would have went down if his mama was there?
I wouldn't even have to be related to him if I were in that crowd.
Yeah.
It would have been. I wouldn't have to be. I don't even have to know him. If I would have seen that happen, I would have reacted the same way a mama or auntie would have acted.
Is that one of those?
Yeah, I'm coming. I got you.
No. A situation like that, you don't got time to take your earrings off. It is no time to take your earrings off. You just go ham. You go ham, fist and feet. Like, it don't matter. Snatch this earring out. Fist and feet. It's funny because a situation like that, I don't intend to get hit. So I don't need no Vaseline. I don't need to take these earrings off. It's on. I'm that ass so fast and so hard. It's
you know
good.
who you're dealing with, so you know you're not worried.
At all.
Tony, I don't know if we have time, if our producer has time for this particular clip, but did anybody see the thing that happened the other day where the lady was with the black lady? It's a white lady, a Karen, and she decides that she's not happy with how the traffic is moving. So she tells her that she's going to the police department. Did you all see this yet? If not, we'll save it till next week. We need to watch it because she starts crying when she gets to the police department because she has called the black lady a nigger. Like, she literally, and she's like, well, I want to file a charge. And they're like, what charge? You have committed a hate crime. Like, what are you talking about? Y'all got to watch the clip. I'm sorry, Tony.
I will watch it.
So Marvin Ellison, I don't know if you all have seen his picture as of yet or if you know who he is, but he's the CEO of Lowe's Home Improvement, and announced that they're going to provide $25 million in grants to minority-owned small businesses to help them recover from the COVID pandemic shutdown. And he's also challenged other CEOs to do their part in the small business community. Now, that's on one end of the equation, and I should tell you, as you'll see, he's the brother. But on the other end, last year, Home Depot, their co-founder, Bernie Marcus, said he plans to donate a portion of his wealth to the White House occupants' re-election campaign. Having donated $7 million in 2016, this isn't really a question, but our producer wanted you to remember, we have to vote every day, every time you spend your money somewhere. I am curious, though. You got two different thoughts. There's Home Depot on one end, where he's sitting here supporting the current occupant, and you got a brother that's CEO of Lowe's saying, let's offer dollars to help folks in small businesses recover. I'm curious what your quick thoughts are before we move forward. Go ahead, Riley.
I'm glad you told me.
So I always say that my favorite stores are home improvement stores because I used to be an interior designer and I love building things. and I'm very artsy and crafty like that. So a lot of people don't know this, but there's always been a battle between Lowe's and Home Depot, and not just because they are similar stores. They're similar stores by design. See, what happened is the owner of Home Depot and the owner of the person who started Lowe's were married. And they when they broke up, she decided that she was going to put a store. Her name was Lowe. She decided she was going to put a store. Every time you build a Home Depot, I'm going to build a Lowe's close to it. So you guys ever notice that wherever there's a Home Depot, there's a Lowe's a few miles down the street, like not too far away, sometimes right across.
I love a good petty bitch. I love a good petty bitch. Yes, lady.
Very petty. And see, here's the thing. So all you had to tell me is that they were funding, and I found this out the other night, that Home Depot was funding the re-election of 45. That's enough for me. That's enough for me. I go shop at Lowe's, and then I found out that it was a black CEO, and I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
2 times. Right. Shana, you were saying we were glad we pointed it out. I know most people don't know because they think Home Depot is more so for minorities to go shop, and Lowe's is the exact opposite. I think you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you told me.
I'll be shopping at Lowe's from here forward. I prefer Lowe's anyway, but now I've got 2 reasons to make sure that I spend my dollars there. What were you gonna say, Shana?
Yeah, it's awesome because I preferred Lowe's over Home Depot. It's almost like it's Target and Walmart. So I prefer Target over Walmart. So for me, Home Depot is Walmart and Lowe's is Target. But I wish it's funny because if I'm closer to Home Depot, I will run in there, but I prefer Lowe's. But the guys from Home Depot had written a really good book, Built from Scratch. And I thought it was a great book talking about owning a business and how you start a business. And I used a lot of what I read in that book fundamentally to help build my business. So they didn't seem like racist and terrible people. That was some good marketing, and they got a good company that helped them with that. But hearing this, and I did not know that the CEO of Lowe's was black. It was almost like when we found out that the CEO of American Express was, it made you want to support a lot more. But I'm glad you brought that to the table because I'm not shopping at Home Depot ever again. And it's Lowe's from here on out.
I'm curious, Ernest, and I'll give you and Tiffany the final thought if you got one before we wrap up for the night.
I will say that I did learn something today. I agree with you, Byron, 100%. And Shana, I agree with you. However, when it comes to Target and Walmart, we can swap there. I've always loved Lowe's, better customer service, better quality products, better prices. Now, I always went to Home Depot because it was close, and I had no idea that, and it didn't matter whether Lowe's was a black-owned business or not. I usually like to shop for prices, but this cause makes it even better. I will pass St. Barnabas, Home Depot, sorry, player. We're done there. We're done there. I'm going to the one in Fort Lincoln. Well, anyway, the one in DC off of
I got a Lowe's right up the street from my house, so it would be
the one in New Carrollton. I will now support fully, wholeheartedly, and bypass every Home Depot at this point because it's better for my pocket and better for my shopping experience. Lowe's,
Tiffany, what's your thought? Home Depot, Lowe's, just
Lowe's all the way. It's all about Lowe's right now. It's all Lowe's.
Well, before we go around,
now you get the better day laborers at the Home Depot.
Yes,
because they don't really go to the Lowe's, but that's not supporting Home Depot. That's supporting, commerce.
It's supporting the local economy.
Small business.
Before we go around the virtual table, I did want to point out. I think Riley, you referred to her as for our forever First Lady, but former First Lady Michelle Obama. She spoke out about George Floyd's death, of course, and admitted she's exhausted about another loss of life due to the police brutality. But I want to share her exact words because she said, right now it's George, Breonna, and Ahmaud. Before that, it was Eric, Sandra, and Michael. It just goes on and on and on. Race and racism is a reality that so many of us growing up learning to just deal with. But if we ever hope to move past it, it can't just be on people of color to deal with it. It's up to all of us, black, white, everyone, no matter how well-meaning we think we might be, to be honest, uncomfortable, work at rooting it out. It starts with self-examination and listening to those whose lives are different from our own. So let's go around and get your final thoughts. Those are the words of our forever First Lady, Miss Michelle Obama. Let's get your final thought for the week. We'll start with you, Tiffany Thomas.
I think that, you know, grace and class just always are the words that describe Michelle Obama. She always has something poignant, intelligent, insightful, factual to say, unlike the current First Lady, whoever she is. But the reality is that she's right. And it's a continuous pattern. It's something that we are constantly and consistently fighting. And for every Sandra and every Mike and every George, there are a million more whose stories never get told. That's really what the fight is. The fight is not for the ones that we see. It's for the ones that we don't.
Very well said. Let's go to you, Ms. Taylor. Shannon, what's your final thought for the week?
Ditto, Tiffany, ditto. Michelle, because it's like, that's why she's gonna forever be our First Lady, because she forever has a message. She forever has a word that helps us put things into perspective and helps us push through. I noticed that when I get upset about the things that I'm seeing and hearing, she'll say something. I'm like, you're right. Let me sit back and think of how I can be more impactful with what I say and what I do moving forward. But like Tiffany said, for every Sandra, it's another one. Just like for every Karen, there is another Karen. So as I mentioned earlier, we just have to be specific in what we do right now so that we can start to erase moving forward how we see people and how people see us.
Very well said. Ernest Collins, what's your thoughts, sir, for the week?
It sucks to have to follow and act like Michelle and Barack. Well said. How can you say anything after those words were written by herself, not by staff members? You know, and it's not so much about we as Black people liking Michelle and Obama just because of color, because if they weren't capable, if they couldn't soothe the country, and I've had presidents that I like before, and it's not like I said so much because Barack, I'm not playing the race card. It is such a soothing, calming, and truthful message about how and who we really are. I receive it, Michelle, every time you say it. Barack, it's like you were the president. When you stepped up and finally opened your mouth, it was right on time. I support him, I appreciate him, and will continue to.
Well said. Ms. Knox, what's your final thought for the week?
I agree with everything everybody already said, but just also the way that you said, Michelle said, that we need, this is a fight for everyone. We need everybody of all colors to come together to fight this this war on racism, you know, and it's the same way I said to you guys last week when I was just like, you know, as transgender women, we need you, we need allies. We can't just do it alone. Black people, we can't just do it alone. We need our allies, because there are people in positions of power that we're not in positions of power that we don't have access to yet, that we need to help us. So I definitely believe that, you know, this is not just this is a problem for Black people, but this is also a human race problem. This is a problem for everyone to get on board with, and we need your help. We cannot do it without you. We absolutely want your help. It's not just that we need, we want it.
Yeah, very well said. And we have a shared and collective responsibility to figure out how do we eradicate racism and root it out. And I mean literally root it out, that old school word root, and get it from the root and root it out at where it started. For those folks who are on YouTube that tuned in this week, we want to make sure that you ring the notification, that you share, like, We Speak _ the talk show. And as always, we thank you for watching and ask that you join us